6th or the 20th.
Okay, so if it's the 6th, that would be our next meeting, and we wouldn't be able to talk about this, so.
I think we really do need to get our for after this. I'm very disappointed.
I have a question. So the EDC, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. That, when we start collecting the money in the taxes, that money's just going to sit. You're not going to dip into that, right? Until we get.
Right, if it's dedicated for an EDC, we're not gonna do anything.
We're not going
until we have
to,
an
you
EDC.
guys are just going to leave it alone?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's my intention. I mean, I'm one of 7, so.
I mean, the CBC allocated $80,000 of it already to the golf course.
Well, that falls into quality of life.
Wait, did you say 80,000?
Up to.
This,
I want to make sure that we're not, because
80.
we need to get the EDC going. But I want to make sure that we're not taking whatever is allotted to that away from that, because we're not there yet.
Right, the way I see it as council, this whole
So
thing
the
is kind of
council-
is an offshoot. This group is an offshoot of what, wanted to do to make sure that we've got good guidance on what we're doing. And if the council goes in a different way and just throws that something, then this board has been a waste of time, and I do not want to waste anybody's time. And this is a beneficial group for what we're doing. What we're trying to do is establish guidance for.
I guess
where
I'm
this
sitting
money
with
goes,
3
so.
members here. Is that the,
Are you asking, I mean,
I
one.
want to make sure that,
Well, let's just be clear, we haven't dedicated a penny to really anything in this group, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it 1%, is it 2%? We
Give
don't
us assurance
know.
that we're not going to take.
I
what
wanna
we
make sure
dedicated
that
for the EDC and.
we need to make sure that that's kind of set aside.
Well, my point is, we haven't dedicated anything.
The
Money is
CBC first
5%.
needs to propose that formally, and then the council agree,
Yeah,
and just
then-
make it fenced funds of
Right.
500.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
We can't
CBC
agree to
need to
anything
get.
without the full council vote.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I understand, but what I'm saying, so we need the CBC to present that to you
Council
guys,
agree,
and
fence it
then
off.
you guys, that's
Well,
fenced off.
The first thing is, we need to make a recommendation, just agree to what we think needs to happen, and then the CBC can mull it over,
Yeah.
make their decision, then the council can review it, make their decision. So,
Right.
we gotta get that's why I'm trying to keep us
Which is
focused
the
on what
purpose of
we
Kevin
do.
being involved
Yeah.
in this group, was that it's
Yeah.
part of the CBC.
I think,
And CBC
I'm also CBC.
CBC.
Yes.
I'm CDC.
Yeah,
So I think.
that's all, I was just making sure that, I don't want the I don't
I don't
want
think
it to
anyone
go
is
away.
pushing this to the wayside. I think what we're trying to do is just
Right.
establish what this entity is going to do and how it's going to move forward, and what its mission statement is, what the short-term and long-term planning is for the money, and the recommendations for how it's going to, collect information and then present it to the CBC.
I wanted to make sure that, because I mean, unfortunately, we're not there yet on the EDC, and I just want to make sure that we don't
Since we haven't established it, we don't take funding.
take things away from it, because it's very important to the piece.
Right,
So,
I'm on the same page.
Do we
Okay.
do we not also have an EDC plan from 2019, which you gave?
yeah, I got it.
But we also have a recent county council half of a plan,
The Myers back up.
so, and a town
No.
plan. You guys have crisis going on?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Water
But
outage?
anyways, we're fine.
Do I-
I don't know that it doesn't check in yet, like she made it through. Anyways, okay. Okay. So the EDC is still out there, and I think that we're all determined that to get it started and going, we want to allocate innkeeper's tax. But ultimately, at the end of the day, at some point, it needs to evolve into where it makes its own money.
As of this point, I think we're all in agreement, there's a consensus that the EDC is a dedicated 1/3 of this.
I don't know if 1/3, but we've all agreed it's a category.
But I thought it was like-
You know.
I mean, it's gonna need seed money to get started, but
Yeah.
at some point, I don't think it needs to receive a dedicated.
We need to flesh
1/3
it
of
out.
it.
Let's hear from the
Right now,
experts,
the
figure out
1/3
what
of
that
it is
budget
about
looks like.
250,000, and
Yeah.
as of right now, until we get the EDC determined, I think that 250,000 needs to sit there
Yeah.
and build. And if that doesn't happen until next year, then there's another 200, then you got $500,000 sitting there for the EDC, which the EDC is going to need.
Okay,
I mean, maybe,
okay.
got figured out.
So, okay, is there anything more to add to this particular point right here?
I mean,
where we're going?
If this is us in the middle, which I think it is.
Yes.
We've discussed a lot of stuff, and we've agreed to a lot of stuff. Like
Yes.
the priority categorization
Yep.
of EDC, infrastructure, quality of life, and
Yes.
parks and recreation, those 4 categories.
Yes,
I mean, and that's kind of as far as we've gotten on terms of, we've talked a little bit of detail about how much for each of those, mainly on the county parks and county side, the 250,000. And in my opinion, we have not had in-depth, really informed discussion on what an EDC would require in terms of funding in form of startup costs or ongoing costs or local government contributions. And so I think we kind of touched on some detailed expenses, but we really, I don't think as a group have decided funding dollar amounts. I don't think we should.
and I think what we can do as part of our short-term, long-term planning as we start flushing this out during our next meetings is we can incorporate what this is going to look like within that realm.
And all the other
Right.
parts. Yeah.
Yes.
There's lots of parts. EDC is one of those pieces.
So the other thing, I know I brought this up at least once in a previous meeting. We need to be accumulating and keeping organized in some way our questions of others, subject matter experts, so that when you get that speaker here, we are prepared to even give them in advance, here are some of our questions we want to focus on. If we accumulate several questions in some other category, we know we need to go find the answers from somebody with the expertise, or take a field trip to a community that's done it, or whatever it is. But I feel like we don't have some discipline in the process of accumulating those questions. Going into detail, next time on this, we're going to come up with some questions.
And I think that you said that last time as well, and if there are any direct questions, I think we said to email them to me.
And I wrote a reminder on my notes the last meeting, and then I didn't do it. So I'm a bad example with my own concern.
So I mean,
I'll do better,
I
Brett.
would add, did we get housing? I mean, I've just, Brian, in the middle, that, what we are not saying here is that this is a comprehensive list of our projects, because housing's not on there. We don't have, infrastructure. I mean, we're just,
Housing and broadband infrastructure.
I'm talking under our quality of life board responsibility. Kind of to John's point, we've got this kind of historical knowledge that we've kind of all agreed to, and we just need to get it into a place and start to really make some decisions on by October 1. And I think maybe one of the things we do at our next meeting is say, okay, reverse timeline. Here's October 1 deadline where we need an investment plan, short and long term, and then work back and kind of, I think we're going to have some reality setting in here that we got to stay pretty darn focused, or we're not going to make that October 1 deadline.
Okay, so Gary, do you want me to venture into this at all as part of our discussions today?
Where do you see the value of it, any comparing to this?
I think we've already touched on a lot of it, and I think that as we start putting together a investment plan, I think we'll get into more of the tiered modeling and things like that. And I think, when we talk about codified pieces of it, I think that can be more of a memorandum of understanding between the council and the CVC at some point of how the process is going to work, with us doing the recommendations, the CVC then saying, okay, here's how much money we're going to allocate, and then the presentation coming before the council to say, this is how much we need to appropriate out of the innkeeper's tax for whatever.
Yeah, the other thing is that's primarily for the CVC, and then talked to Kevin yesterday, and they're going to enhance their plan. Part of the issue, the concern is if it's broad and general, people on the CVC are up for level 6 felony if the money's abused. So why don't you put some parameters in there to protect them, basically, and direct these things, so it can also be validated to say, yes, this is being done. So that's more in the CVC's realm. And but they did in there talk about how they were using their innkeeper's tax in some areas.
They did, and what Tippecanoe County does is they have a very specific amount of the tax collected goes to the tourism promotion, and then the buckets are very clear after that of how much goes where. So
how does it, are you aware of how that works with the economic development? Do they fund the corporation or?
yes, so part of their state statute has specific amounts going to an economic development corporation. Yes, give me a second.
That's the other way we could do this, like the simplest way for this group to get through a sustainable or investment plan would be come up with percentages of funding that go to certain topics. I mean, if we wanted to kind of be real, light touch on this, we could say, hey, 1% to county, 1% to infrastructure, 1% to EDC or whatever.
So Tippecanoe is a 6%. So 5% of it goes to the Tourism Commission, County Development Authority, and Economic Development, and then the 1% is split between infrastructure and economic growth.
Who does that go through?
It goes through the CBC.
Okay,
The
so
C-
all of
so
it goes through the CBC.
All of it goes through the CBC.
But what they
Tippecanoe
have is an
is a
understanding.
10-member CBC.
Okay, and they have an understanding document between, or have a
They have-
document between
They have a,
them and the
State
CBC.
code.
yes, they have a
State
codified.
code, like our code.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
And that's what I'd like to get at.
So basically, their memorandum of understanding has been codified at the state
Mhm.
level to make it.
And that's what I want this group to get us toward, is where we can have. So it's dependable, and
Right.
So
what,
they have it broken up into buckets like goes
There.
just
I would-
5% is for economic development.
Like they say,
Correct,
40%
but then
goes to
the
the
1% is for infrastructure and economic growth, whatever.
So
I haven't gotten to
some value in it.
Right.
So, Scott, back to your comment, I guess I would just say, understandably, this is not a charitable distribution we're talking about, but I've seen it in corporate and other things too. You've got to be careful about over-prescribing a formula for every dollar according to today's reality or today's circumstances, and then it doesn't survive the test of time.
Yep.
So I would just say allocate in categories broad and flexible enough that they still apply over time.
Right. Yeah, or,
Not
I
too
mean,
much detail.
the other part of that is that kind of a contingency funding, if you will, is not every penny would be allocated, right? You would have a portion of those funds that could be competitively awarded to impactful projects or leverage, grant match. So I think there's also, a percent goes to this, and then there's 25% that's unallocated, but for specific high impact projects, matches, leverage opportunities, whatever.
I mean, but here's an example of what I'm saying, right? So if you were to, and I'm not suggesting this is what you said, but if you said 25 to parks and 25 to housing and 25 to infrastructure,
Right.
well, those will need different amounts of funding at different times and cycles,
Yep.
and then something else will pop up that none of us can think of today. So
Mhm.
instead of those three specifics, you would say community development,
Sure. Yep.
something flexible.
Yeah, and community development's a great word, because it's,
Well, and plus two, you're gonna have fluctuations in the innkeeper's tax every year as well, so I mean, who
Well,
knows?
and to that point, there's an overage bucket. So in such case that additional funds are collected, they go into the
Rainy day.
contingency bucket, the rainy day part, the high impact, say, whatever. There may be a couple extra buckets there, but,
Because there will be significant long-term projects that we agree on, they're gonna have to be paid for in stages, I would imagine.
the county piece is an example. So take a percent, that's 250 today. If you take that, there's a percent. And that one's a safer one, John, probably because that is, it's actually going to go up and probably will never go down in terms of the need in that space. But others, you'll have hopefully a $10 million housing project that needs funding in the first 5 years. I mean, the other question here is, and we should probably talk about this, is would we ever recommend as a group, tax anticipation loan, bonds?
You mean using it as collateral?
Well, similar to the music center, basically saying, hey, we've got 20 years of collections here at 3%. We've allocated as a county X% for housing over 20 years. And oh, by the way, kind of to John's point, something came up, incredible housing opportunity, X dollars needed that are, but for that local private grant match, the project will not occur. Would this group ever, and it's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. This is where we get into needing economic development support, which we don't have, and expertise, right, to advise us. But,
I think maybe part of the EDC should have, because like this year, the CDC budget was 1.7 million.
we carried over 1.6.
I don't know the budget they just proposed to you.
Oh.
Yeah, it was 1.7, and then, but 500,000 of that they put in there was the extra 3%.
Right.
Was some of the extra 3%, excuse me.
So I think part of what the EDC should be maybe we take 200,000 of that, put it into accumulation fund, a cum fund for economic development projects, where every year that just accumulates and rolls over. Like we have a housing opportunity that comes up, we can use that to leverage instead of, spending every bit of the interest tax every year, having the seed fund that builds up until it's needed. That way we won't have to hurry up and try to finance it with, and we'll have that seed money for financing. Does it make sense?
Well, since we're in the weeds, let me ask you a question, right?
Okay.
Because all of that money that originated with CDC or innkeeper's tax keeps the statutory requirements that are attached to those funds, right?
Yeah.
So if you set up an economic development fund to accumulate like that, you might need a second one for economic development dollars that don't have the strings attached, right? Because you can't commingle the, can only use it for these tourism-related economic development things, those dollars mixed in with other economic.
Right, we'd
So
have to,
I would just say two accounts, strings attached, strings not attached,
right.
right?
And if we set up that fund for housing, for workforce development, then that workforce is feeding tourism. So I mean, make it a specific account.
So thinking about the economic development piece too, right? I mean, you guys know I was a Kroger executive for years, and there were, what we paid for, whether it was a store expansion or a new store or something of that sort, and I think Barry would tell you variations of this too, right? Depended on the rules in that community. If, they're in Hamilton County, they will squeeze you and twist the checkbook and get you to pay for all kinds of things. And in other places, if you don't have to pay for it, you save some money because you got to spend too much in Hamilton County. Or, we paid to repair part of the Monon Trail in one place, for a Nora store, right? I mean, and in Bourbonnais, Illinois, we built an entire intersection on a side road, just to get approval to get a store in. So once you know the rules, you can make an informed decision as an investor. Am I going to go to this community and it's going to cost me this much because the project will include these things? And somewhere else, it might be cheaper for me, but I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what I'm getting into. There's too much uncertainty. So sometimes you decide to go to the more expensive place because everything is known versus unknown. Does that make sense? So when Gary, you referred to part of a county comprehensive plan, right? I would still describe it the same way. Over time, as that gets more defined, that will attract developers simply because the percent of known versus unknown has improved. And if we're
Also allows grants.
to the extent where we figure out what an EDC should be and focus on it and so on, to me, part of it is being able to tell a very clear, compelling story of partnership for that investor and have an answer to all their questions. And not say, gee, I don't know, we don't have a plan for that, to their first 5 questions. They're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is planning the future of Brown County because we've got some money to finally do something towards that direction. Yeah. So it has not been done much, and we are creating a vision, so it is a bigger project than just this, than what's presented here, but it's good that it's being done. It's a healthy group that's doing it.
Brian, just to summarize kind of where I think we've come to this point, Darren and I are going to look at the revenue collection sides on the innkeeper side of the state innkeepers collections. Pam's going to try to set up our economic development educational group to come talk to us. You're going to look into the private side, tourism related grant.
Yep.
Kind of landscape. I mean, if you look out there and it's a desert, you know, I hope you don't find that. I hope you look out there and it's like, oh my gosh, we could have funded all these, we don't even need any of this money. I don't think that's the case either. I think it's somewhere in between. We got to fight and scratch and claw for every private investment and grant dollar. I mean, we're talking about like bank corporation grants. We're getting into some, it's a different space of what ARA typically deals with. And so if you look into that, and then, you know, are we August 1 yet? No. July 23rd. So let's just assume we're August 1, August, September. That's 60 days until we need an investment plan. 60 days. And it's why I keep kind of hammering on the group, focusing on what we are here to do and to try to stay focused, not get distracted too much.
So when we talk about an investment plan, do we just need to leave it broad, or do we need to have specific dollars on?
In 60 days, I think we almost have no choice at this point but to be, just start very building some foundational kind of basic blocks, and we get it to the point of October 1st, we bring it to the council, and they may look at it and say, you guys need another 60 days, because this isn't, we need more detail, or, right, or, okay, this will work as a starting point, but we're already, I mean, and we've got to start fleshing out how we want this to look.
Here's a thought, that we might, and I can foresee this coming down the pipe, but we would establish a subcommittee for the EDC side of it that can do, you know,
Yes.
the meet every other day with somebody, kind of a operation, so that, and then that subcommittee can make recommendations to this group and hash it out. But to have a working group that's on that piece of it, so that we can really get solid on the nuts and bolts of it.
Now, we have a whole plethora of projects and things like that, but do we need to get prices on the project? Like, what does the council want by October 1st? That 1% is going to go towards projects, and here are the list of projects that we have.
I mean, let's suppose you got the EDC plan for 2019, still has some meat to it, say, where are we 5, 6 years later? You got the 2 comprehensive plans that just come out, so you've got potential projects in there that people want to do, so you start with there, I would think. How are you going to fund those? What are we going to make of them?
Well, here's the other big project. How are you going to fund it? Exactly.
Well, I mean, we've got money to fund them.
Well, no, it's not how we pay for it. It is part of that, but it's how we go through the process of reviewing, completing the grant materials, advertising to the public, receiving those grant applications, reviewing them, interviewing the candidates, making selections, going through the scoring criteria, making a recommendation to the CBC, letting them review it, making their edits, coming back to them for final, and then sending it to council, getting their edits, doing another draft. So that's how this is this most likely how it should look.
Yes.
That's a long path.
Okay.
And we have got to.
And a big part of that answer is how much capacity the CDC have, anywhere from 0 to 100% of that.
Let me add
Which
something.
then leads to how much some other functional group has to do.
Let me just put you on the spot, John. You don't have to answer now, but you have someone we could hire with innkeeper tax dollars to help us develop our grant process. That to me is our biggest weakness. Like, we've got to get some materials kind of rolling here, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we don't need it as quickly.
That's what I just advocated for a little bit ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to, well, that's not no, you're talking about someone to find and write grants. I'm talking about someone to administer the grant process for millions of dollars in grants that could be given out over 20 years. There's a difference. There's 2 different people, okay? They could be the same person, but probably not.
I think a big piece of time is developing the process. And if you borrow and tweak the foundation's existing process, you've saved a lot of upfront work. So then the time-intensive piece is advertising the grant opportunity, prepping for review of those when they come in and so on. And that's, I don't see a way around whatever the decision-making committee, that whole committee invests the time.
So you want to hire a director for this?
Not a director,
So
no.
he's asking about, is there a Janice Bobrink who does all the
Well, she would be great.
prep
Could
work for that.
Would you just loan her services to the?
I don't have the authority to do that, but I would say, Allison would say, she's 100% busy plus.
Oh, I know
Right.
she is.
Now,
So,
does Janice know somebody else who could do that or something?
She
Maybe.
can make,
my point is, I see a lack of expertise and capacity for grant administration on this group and development. And maybe it's just, Brian, let's just add it. Grant administration,
I thought.
procedural process development.
That's the top line of
Is it-
EDC.
Yeah.
Well,
We are DDC.
I think,
It's not their job.
It's shared.
It's our job. No, it's us. There is no EDC. We got, unless there would be in 60 days, I mean,
It can happen.
but yeah, I could also win the lottery tomorrow, but yeah. it's
so
just
everything
too
you're
quick.
saying is on the grant distribution side. We talked earlier about Whitney and ARA doing grant
Yeah,
seeking.
that's, and totally different, yep, totally different, yep. This is like the oversight role, which was on there, and what I would actually say grant administration, maybe, that's even too strong. I want the county to be responsible for that, not this group. We're already responsible for it.
Well, I'm sure we'll put that in there as we get to that point.
Yeah,
No problem.
no one else can be responsible. It's fiduciary responsibility of the government to oversee the tax
Okay, so-
dollars.
I'll
I'm glad
ask Denise
you
for
think
her
that's
thoughts,
hilarious.
because I can't estimate, the time she spends that I'm aware of is a
Yeah.
We
large
just need to
number.
hire
I
somebody.
don't know,
Like
time she
what
spends,
you-
I'm not
What
aware.
you said.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
it's a
you
lot of work.
explore with Whitney, I sent you her thing.
You did.
No, I don't mean for her to do it,
So
but for her to help
we'll go
define
from there.
what would we need.
She could advise us.
We want to hire somebody to do this, well, the first thing they're gonna say is how much time and she can help define our needs.
Time's up is what that means.
So grant administration, we need development and our grant
Yes.
process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add before we adjourn for today? So next meeting in 2
Next
weeks?
meeting, yeah.
Let me get a,
Thanks, it's.
let me,
Yeah, I'd like to
let me
take
get
a
a-
minute.
Shot at it too, please. What is moving things next door?
Hmm?
Second from the.
Oh, moving things next door would be, how do we use an eventual EDC to help with the quality of life for? So are there projects coming before us that would actually be better over here? That's what I mean by moving next door.
Or share.
The other thing, I guess, that we probably should be, thinking about is a much broader community collaboration, which includes not just some future EDC, but our known current existing partners, which is the town, the county, the foundation, others in the CBD. We've got a bunch of partners here that are not on this board. We've talked about collaborating with like the fairgrounds and the history center and Parks and Rec to do maintenance, make that more efficient and kind of more seamless, more attractive. Those are, I just really trying to encourage us to think more broadly, not predetermine who's going to do what, but just kind of think broadly about who we can pull in here to help. So
some of that falls directly into the 1/3 of dedicated funding, so that's a different.
Well, ultimately, what I think you want is once some of these upgrades are done to some of these county assets, then the tourism arm needs to bring in events, and the events pay for the upkeep and the maintenance and the sustainability of these things. That's what the ultimate goal should be, not falling back on the county government to hire X, Y, and Z to go and do this stuff.
yeah, taxpayers. Yeah.
Because each of these projects that we've listed on here, we can make money.
To support.
It'll generate more revenue in general and taxes, local business, everything.
And if it doesn't, it shouldn't be a project.
Then it should.
Yeah, if it's not
If we don't see a
sustainable.
return on the investment,
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
it's done.
We can't.
Well, within certain limits, because that was, everybody talks about government, running government like a business. Government isn't a business. It's strictly service oriented.
That you have to budget it as a
Right.
business.
There's certain things of economic development that will have to, but government itself, I mean, we're a taxing entity. We take money and hopefully use it to the best, most efficient way possible to provide the services to the local community. So, I mean, it's not a business. It's a service provider. So, I lost my train.
But by no,
No, yeah,
by no
there's some things
by
that
no
we
means
can
should the
examine.
county government be paying for
And some things that are just an
or
expense.
pump track maintenance, or it should be paid.
Maybe we, at our next meeting, we also have a committee kind of hands. We've got a communications committee, subcommittee right now. But I do think we need, and I would stick more to our core of like an investment plan subcommittee and a grant administration subcommittee, and kind of the core functions of our group, right? And I'd still consider the EDC a separate project, like all the other projects, but, really focus on what we are responsible for in 60 days, break down in some committees possible for deeper dives, coming back as a group with some of those results. If we don't do that now, we're going to find ourselves in quite a pickle in 30 days. And those groups may come back and say, you know what? Here's kind of our 60-day, here's what we think we can accomplish in 60 days, and here's what we think we need in addition to that, or how we make, I think we've got to have some.
There's enough detail to do that maybe each of us can be on some work stream. Can carry some things between meetings or help focus.
So to add to our to-do list, I think I heard John volunteer to pursue the grant, early investigation of a grant administration platform for us to maybe stand on at some point. John, can you?
I didn't hear that. I was busy hearing the list.
That's what I
of
meant.
things
You
that
may
Scott
not-
volunteered for, so.
That would be good.
John, I think you were voluntold to do that.
Speaking of leaning on our partners,
I've already
yes.
do some of that before, so.
Okay, the day of our next meeting.
2 weeks, 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Okay, when are we gonna know? You have to go, Lynn was the one that was gonna set up the EDC.
ROI,
No,
EDC.
ROI.
Well, it was Lynn, and then it was Pam, and then there was
She
confusion. and now
she
it's
was
back
gone
to
in
Pam.
3 weeks and she just got back, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
is
I
she
talked
is she
to her.
still setting that up? Does anybody know?
Pam, can you talk to Lynn?
I'll do that.
Okay,
Just
but
talk to
you were in contact with her contacts and.
There's actually different contacts.
Oh, okay.
Pam kind of went a different route.
And I'll get with Lynn and see if there's some overlap there.
Yeah, because if they're, both of them are the same thing, so if we could have both of them at the same meeting, then they could kind of bounce ideas off of each
So
other.
that'd be August
A
6th.
lot of experts on this, before we really get clear.
Well, and if you look at our 60-day timeline, it's like, gosh, how do we take a full meeting to do this side project and not do like the work we're here to do? It's a little
So we
bit.
could kind of be in flux for our next meeting of whether or not if we can get arranged for the EDC contacts, then we'll make the next meeting about that, and if not, then we'll make it about going further into the rural quality of life. Or-
Sorry, I was looking at my calendar.
I think we
No, we're
focus
supposed to
on
have
our
a
work.
presentation for the EDC.
Oh,
laser
We were gonna
focus.
use an entire meeting for that.
I think if we've got somebody like that here, we should not shortcut or constrain the time. We want to get full value out of it.
Yeah, oh, I agree. When do you think we'll know?
I've been checking my email
Okay.
all morning.
Or do you want to, or do you want
Is there
to,
operators?
or do you want to push that off to the next 2 weeks after?
We can do it just on the 6th, I'd say.
Yeah, so,
June 21st.
Yeah, I'd get them here,
oh, we'd like to.
put our stuff off.
You know, might be, what do you think of if it should, if the door should open for this opportunity to have different people meet with a few of us outside of the regular meetings, that'd be copacetic to just kind of.
If you're talking EDC, it's I'd say do whatever you want. I mean,
Do we have, so then maybe the next question is who should be on the quote-unquote EDC subcommittee?
I don't think there's any authority in that
No,
group, so
not
it's not like
authority,
it's.
I mean, to just be another ad hoc working group, to just try to
I
get.
wouldn't do that, Jen, because it's so complimentary, is if we hear what they have to say, then we say, okay, we'll sign it.
Okay, all right,
Because they will be interactive and complimentary.
so we'll just wait for that until after the next meeting.
Wait for the subcommittee?
Wait to create the subcommittee.
Did you hear all that, Brian? You good with that? She's going to try to get the contacts for the EDC and make that the focus of the next meeting.
That's great.
And if she can't, then we'll
Yeah,
go back to
I'll
work.
be ready in case that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Thanks as
All right.
always.
Have a great day, everybody.
Good job. Brian, thanks as always for all your work.
Good job, Brian. You like the
Patience.
punching bag here.
No, it's fine. Yeah, unless you can suck water off of the road.
Road? Yeah, it's not road.
We invoked your name yesterday.
Water main break?
My name?
Yes.
Water
Oh,
main
I'm
break?
sorry, you were so
So-
bored that you had nothing else to do.
One of the properties is out